And the first weekend of NCAA tournament, that's what, like 32 games across 3 or 4 different networks. And I had TiVo'd them all back when TiVo was a verb. And I scanned through all of them, and I spent the better part of the entire weekend, that first weekend, just scanning through games going, no, no, maybe, no. And so by the end of that first weekend, I was just like, this sucks. Like, I'm like, nope, I am not cut out for this. And then the next weekend, and then I ended up getting 0 air that very first tournament. And I just was encouraged to just kind of keep at it. What is happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 52 Qs podcast, your weekly insight into all things production and library music. Whether you're simply curious about the sync industry or learning to write better cues, or maybe you are ready to pitch to publishers, I promise you're in the right place. My name is Dave Croft, and it is so good to be with you today. And if you find this video helpful, then why don't you give it a thumbs up here on YouTube or a 5-star review in your podcast app? And please be sure to subscribe, because I talk about library music every single week. Today's episode wouldn't be possible without the incredible support of our member subscribers at 52 Qs, who not only keep our community alive and thriving, but as members, they get access to extra features like workshops, live streams, office hours, cue breakdowns, Zoom feedback sessions, hundreds of hours of video archives, and opportunities to submit to real music libraries. So if you're feeling stuck, or maybe you're finally ready to take your sync career to the next level, then if that's you, head over to 52qs.com. It is free to join, and memberships start at around $4 a month. So I hope that you have had a good week. It is week 2 of 2024. And like I talked about last week, I'm changing up the format a little bit. I'm going to be doing a weekly check-in, and then we are going to take a listen to my Expedition 52 Qs, or my Expedition 52 submission, which is called Iran So Far Away, which is a Middle Eastern hybrid cue. So that's coming up here in just a moment. And if you want to get right to the topic, then you can check out the timestamps in the description below. So it's week 2. How did I do? Still kind of crawling out from under the emails and getting back to folks, and including like dentist appointments and eye appointments and all these other things that I had been putting off over the holidays. And it's really easy on the front end of the holidays. So around December 20th or 22nd or so, that's when, I took a break from Full Sail. We had 3 weeks. And it was always out there, like, yeah, on the other side of the new year and everything. And as I'm recording this, it is January 10th, and this is going to come out on January 11th. And we're already getting close to halfway through January. And so, man, it really, really sneaks up on you. And so maybe you could resonate with this. Maybe you can relate, but still kind of crawling out from under everything I've been putting off until we get to the new year. Getting into the writing rhythm has been really good because of my teaching schedule and because of everything that I'm doing here in the community and everything. I don't have, or I haven't found like a solid 4 or 6 hour writing chunk that I can just sit down and write. And I'm having to make sure that I'm writing in smaller chunks and go into a very creative place, but in smaller chunks, like a 2-hour block, or maybe even a 1-hour block. And it reminds me of sleep. And you know how if you stay asleep long enough, you go into REM sleep, and REM is analogous to our creative flow state. And so I'm getting into that pattern, practicing that pattern, and not sitting down and finishing a cue in one sitting, right? Just kind of nibbling creatively as I go throughout my day and as I go throughout my week. And I will say, being a member of Expedition 52, coming onto YouTube, talking about the cue I am going to write has already yielded the results I was looking for, which is keep me motivated to write. keep me motivated to write. By the way, Expedition 52 signups are still going on. It does close January 15th. So as of January 15th, we're closing up registration, and whoever is part of the expedition, we are climbing that mountain together. And if that's interesting to you, then you can head over to expedition52.com. Speaking of, let's take a listen to I Ran So Far Away. Like I said, it is a hybrid Middle Eastern cue that has traditional Middle Eastern rhythms like oud and duduk, and Middle Eastern percussion, bindir, rik, daf, doumbeks, tombaks, darbukas, all these things, and traditional Middle Eastern rhythms, because I studied Middle Eastern percussion and Middle Eastern rhythms in college. So we're going to take a listen to I Ran So Far Away and then talk about it a little bit on the other side. So that was I Ran So Far Away, a hybrid Middle Eastern cue, kind of in the tension vein and that kind of thing. I had a lot of fun writing it, and I had a lot of fun digging into Middle Eastern rhythms. It's been quite a while, to be honest. It's been a while since I had an opportunity to flex those things. And this was written for our Week 2 Expedition 52. And if you want to see an in-depth breakdown of this cue, I will be posting a cue review over for the friends and family subscribers. In-depth, talking about the rhythms, talking about some of the instrument choices, the harmonic choices, form, structure, mix, and all of that. So for our topic this week, I want to talk about discouragement. I know, not a lot of fun, not a very fun topic to talk about, especially here on the front end of the year where we have so much kind of expectant energy. But I think it's important to always be transparent, be honest with you, but more importantly, be honest with yourself, because there is some pain that goes along with this gig, right? There is some pain points. If we were to liken this to weightlifting, you have to do the reps, and muscles are built through the breaking down of the tissue, right? Not to get too anatomical or whatever, but that's through that pain comes resilience and comes strength. Now, it's not all like super dour or whatever, but whether it's getting rejected from a publisher, getting ghosted from a publisher, getting placements that pay pennies to the dollar, between never getting placements at all, this gig can be pretty discouraging at times. So how do we deal with that? Well, instead of me talking about it, I thought it would be a really good idea to have another 52Qs family roundtable, and I'm going to have those folks join me, and we are going to talk about handling discouragement. I am so glad once again to be welcomed by several of our family members. We've got Cory Lavine, we've got Kristopher Smith, we've got Jesse Carrigan, Rolf Schild, Mike Sinay, and Mark Justin. How are you, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. And today, this is another roundtable. We did this a while ago, and I enjoy doing it because I believe it's one thing for me to kind of just talk at you, but it's another thing to hear from folks who are in the trenches just like you are. If you're watching this or if you're listening to this, chances are you are on your own career path. And who better to talk about the topics that affect all of us than your colleagues? And so happy to bring in some of the family. And we're talking about discouragement and handling discouragement. And maybe it's fortuitous that we're talking about this at the beginning of a year, as there's a lot of new energy and we're pushing a lot into what we want ourselves to be, the next versions of ourselves, but really posing two main questions in today's episode. And the first is, where do you find yourself getting discouraged? And I'm going to ask you, the viewers and the listeners, to be thinking about this. Where do you get discouraged? And what does that even mean, discouraged? Is it kind of like getting depressed, feeling, is it imposter syndrome? Is it feeling like, man, I can't do anything right? But I'll throw that out to the family. Where do you find is your greatest source of discouragement, where you're just feeling like, Mark, what have you got?
It's odd. It's a mixture of different things for me. And I thought about coming today, and before I came, I also, not now, but I also I thought about what do I do to solve the discouragement. So I also have, I'd share that at some point in time too.
Yeah, that's the follow-up. Because we're going to take a round, because it's one thing to talk, we're discouraged, but we're going to propose solutions today as well.
Right. Okay. So for me, my biggest source of discouragement is too much to do. In other words, overwhelm. I don't know if overwhelm is the right word for it. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of things I want to do regarding production, the production of music, the writing of it, my own vision of what I'm doing. And it's fitting the time in to do it with everything else. And I have a lot of time. So it's not like I only have a few hours a week, but I think that it's choosing the right things to do and running with them. That's my biggest source of discouragement or losing my motivation. I get there's a little bit of where's the money? There's a little bit of they didn't recognize my genius. There's some of that, but if I say it's three things, but mostly it's the first thing is how to get everything done, because I always have ideas, and then time and deadlines and reality sets in, and it's like maybe I'm trying to accomplish too much in the time I have. So that's it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're feeling discouraged by just the sheer amount that you have yet to do.
Yes.
Yeah, I could get that. Yeah, whether it's the number of cues you have to write, or the process of writing them and how long it could take, especially if you're still ironing out your process. Yes, Rolf.
Mm-hmm. So there are two sources of frustration for me. One was Taxi, not Taxi as such, but the thing that when tracks got forwarded, not to hear anything back. It feels like you have blacklisted by somebody. It's just, And the other source is myself.
Okay.
Because I work with 5 or 6 libraries, and I can't complain about them. They answer just in time. They are nice. They give me good comments on my tracks, and I can't complain about the libraries. But I can complain about myself because what really frustrates me about me is that I'm not organized enough. So this weekend I had to do for 10 tracks, I had to do the deliverables and then where to find the files. What was the name? Do I have something in an Excel sheet, and where is it on? I work with Zoho, that is a online thing, and I work with Google Sheets, and I'm not properly organized. And sometimes I lose on a weekend 2 hours just find the things, and that really frustrates me. And I promised myself to get better in 2024.
Yeah, I got to tell you, deliverables. I procrastinate on those. I'm not going to even lie. It's why the last live stream of last year was deliverables, because it's like if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna turn on the live stream and just hang out and chat with friends. It's almost like having a conversation while doing busy work helps the time to go by a little bit faster. But yeah, deliverables, metadata, all of that stuff that can really wear down on you and can be discouraging.
For 2 years, I said to myself, okay, if you complete a track, do at least some old versions, export the stamps, and write down on a sheet the BPM and the key, at least,
right.
Maybe a keyword. For 2 years, I said this to myself, and up to date, I don't do it.
I don't know. It's kind of like I have so much respect for mothers, who give birth, let alone like women who give birth to twins. It's like you're done with one and you're like, okay, whew, that's done. Congratulations, me. Nope, here comes another baby. And that's what I feel like trying to do metadata and stems right after you finish the track. It's like, nope, I've already given birth to this brand new baby track. The last thing I want to do is like go through the labor pains of metadata. So I just put it off. And later me usually regrets it. Jesse, yes, sir, you have some thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. I was... my brother and sister-in-law had twins, so I know something about that vicarious. You're not wrong. But I think like kind of related to what Mark was saying. I think one of the things that I struggle with is the sense that like I'm never doing enough. You know what I mean? Like there's this kind of, I don't know, it's like the sword of Damocles like hanging over your head all the time. You're kind of like, if I'm not doing a cue, like, what am I going to get left behind? Like what's going, you're this sense that you have to just be a machine and cranking it out. And like, I tend not to work well that way. It's not really the way that I function best. And like I've tried to figure out how do I kind of balance those things, being able to be creative and interesting and do something that like I find interesting while simultaneously going, okay, like you got to do one or if it takes you more than a few hours to do one of these, like what's the return on investment? And
right.
It's like really difficult.
Yeah, it's when you always feel like there's more to do, it can be super overwhelming, especially earlier today I was kind of showing everybody my latest royalty statement, And there were some placements that were a couple of $100, but there was also some placements which were 0.00003 cents. And the goal of showing you guys that was to encourage you and just kind of pull the veil back, let's look behind the curtain. This is real life. This is the real deal. But I think it had the opposite effect. I think everybody kind of came away going, "What? Why are we doing this for pennies on the dollar?" But yeah, just and then you get into the mindset. Oh my gosh, I gotta write. There is so much more. I have to keep writing. And if you just take 2 hours in the middle of your day, you're like, oh man, I'm wasting my time. And then that gets a little panicky and weird. I don't know. That's kind of how I think about it. Cory, yes sir, your thoughts?
I think for myself, Dave, as far as just for to be able to establish some balance, I think in my life, as far as with what I do have going on, as far as with the music, as far as with the solo piano, as far as creating songs and as far as with sheet music and working on that, and then also working on the production cues and finding the balance to be able to find time both for the solo piano and also for the production music. One thing that I have started working on is trying to be able to, as far as working 3 hours each day, as far as in the morning before I go off to work, and so I work averaging 7 miles a day, and so sometimes I might be getting back maybe at 7 o'clock at night, and would love to try to get another 3 hours as far as for music in, or as far as trying to be able to find some time for some ideas, as far as some new ideas as far as for solo piano, or some new ideas, or to practice some other genres as far as within the production music. And then also one of the things that I really enjoyed, as far as with the summer mastermind this last year, as far as with yourself introduced me to the journaling, keeping both a personal journal and then also a musical journal, and right there, that I use Evernote for that. Not a plug for Evernote, but that's been really great as far as keeping all my ideas, as far as all the goals and that, and having just one central place that I can go to keep all my ideas. So I think for myself, kind of moving forward, and with a new year, I think just trying to also just to be able to try to find some balance, as far as I think with finding the balance that'll help me, I think, better as far as with the time management, and also as far as dealing with the procrastination, but also I think balance as far as making sure that that I'm also living a healthy life. As far as I make sure that I'm eating right and getting the proper amount of exercise and that, and not spending too much time on the screen, but also be able to make sure that that my life in total is a good balance and a good mix.
That's good. That's really good. Thanks, Cory. Appreciate that. Yeah, Chris, what do you got?
So mine's kind of a different perspective as a newcomer to this all in general. The biggest thing probably for me, and I'd imagine other newcomers, is just the sheer volume of information. Where do you focus your time? Where do you determine I need to spend more? Obviously you base it on the skills you have already, but where to shift and move that into how to focus a little more instead of just all of this stuff that's out here.
Yeah, the idea of you don't know what you don't know, but then you learn what you don't know, and then you're like, oh my God, there's a lot I don't know. that's the 4 stages of competence that we talked about last year, and that could be super overwhelming, and discouraging as well. Yeah, Rolf.
So I have a good example about my frustration about me, of myself. So an hour ago, I was super frustrated about the briefing room and the promo round 1. Because I said, okay, this week, tomorrow I have rehearsal. Wednesday I have rehearsal. Thursday is free. Friday we drive to Berlin to meet our family. So no chance to get a track out there. And as we speak, I looked up the website and I found out, okay, it's January 21 and not this weekend. And I was so, because I like this promo stuff, I said, yes, that's my thing. And I was so down about that I maybe can't be a part of this one. And then I found, okay, wrong weekend. That's a thing that really frustrates me about me.
So you read the date wrong, then you got all worked up about it, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I've got a whole other week. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Mike.
Oh, I would say my biggest point of disappointment as of yet is the number of tracks that I have that have been accepted, and none of them are making air, at least to the best of my knowledge. So each Sunday, I awake with anticipation and turn on CBS and pop in my headphones and say, maybe today. And now we're heading into the playoffs, and it's been an entire season, and I've yet to hear one single thing. And it's a bummer because I hit the ground running last year, and I was like, okay, well, my foot's in the door and it's all up, just up from here. And even though the publisher has given me mucho encouragement, which is great because I love that dude, who we speak of.
Yep.
And, I really thought that I would have had some stuff that would have made air by now. But hope springs eternal, and maybe it'll hit sometime in the coming weekends.
Man, boy, do I feel you on that one. My very first season, the very first time I was pitching to CBS, it was for March Madness, and I wrote a bunch of tunes, and I scanned every single game that first tournament. This was 2014, I believe, the 2014 tournament. And I scanned like every single game. I had a TiVo. I recorded them, and this is before I really knew how to scan through games. Like once you watch, a couple hundred sporting events, you realize there's a formula and a pattern. I hadn't learned that yet. And so the first weekend, I was like, dun, dun, bum, gonna get some air. The publisher likes the cues, right? And I didn't get any air that first weekend. And the first weekend of NCAA tournament, that's like 32 games across 3 or 4 different networks. And I had TiVo'd them all back when TiVo was a verb. And I scanned through all of them, and I spent the better part of the entire weekend, that first weekend, just scanning through games going, no, no, maybe, no. And so by the end of that first weekend, I was just like, this sucks. Like, I'm like, nope, I am not cut out for this. And then the next weekend, and then I ended up getting 0 air that very first tournament. And I just was encouraged to just kind of keep at it, to just keep. I know it feels like you're just pumping things into the void, and this is kind of what we were talking about, kind of getting forwards and hearing nothing. And even when you have a relationship with a publisher saying, yes, they're great. But at the end of the day, it's equal parts skill, equal parts determination, equal parts luck, and equal parts just being the guy that toughs it out, because not everybody's going to tough it out. I think Jesse Josephson talks about it. I think he said this when he was on the channel, and Jesse over at Sync My Music. He said, like, you're like in a waiting room, and the longer you have to wait, the more people will leave. And so success comes to those who wait. And so
we discussed this a little bit this morning about the magic formula and how the various networks, kind of regurgitate the same thing week after week after week. And I can tell you that for NCAA, I'm going back to the formula, and I'm staying with the formula, because trying to give them stuff that was different apparently has fallen on deaf ears so far. I'm just going to give them what they want and just leave it at that. I've got another publisher that's looking for stuff that's different, so I'll focus different over there.
There you go.
This, man, I'm telling you, I'm just going to be like, I hate to call it vanilla or wallpaper or whatever. Well, that's what I'm going to churn out.
Yeah. The challenge with sports stuff is the publishers and the music supervisors and the dudes in the booth. they on one hand, they want something new because that's the only way new cues ever get used. And on the other hand, they want things that are familiar that they know work, especially in the heat of a live broadcast. And they're just like, I know this works. I'm going to hit play and go. Because I don't know, somebody got hurt and had to throw to commercial super fast or whatever. Or somebody just had a huge breakout game and they're throwing together a highlight package just so this one player can get featured. And so it's a challenge. And I have been there. I've also been there where my first season, I had some pretty good luck my first season, but my second and third season, it was a huge downturn. And on one hand, I was like, yay, I made it. That was easy. How hard is this? And then it was like, oh, easy come, easy go, I guess.
One thing that I've learned from you, and you even addressed it this morning as well, and it seemed rather obvious after giving it some thought. And like you also said, we talked about, and for anybody else, if you're not ingesting what you're trying to achieve, then you're missing the boat, because you have to be listening. So whatever it is, even if the show does nothing for you, you have to be paying attention. You have to be listening. But going back to what you said this morning, and showing the example of that one track of yours, which I swear I've heard multiple times.
I'm sure you have.
Throughout broadcast.
Yeah.
That is the ticket right there. And that is my focus moving forward, is to write a couple iconic tracks that they like so much that they'll just keep using them over and over again. Because like you said, with being creatures of habit, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I know this one works.
Yep.
Like you said, heat of the moment. It's like, oh, I know this one works. Yep. I've got this title memorized. I know this is my go-to drop in. So I've put that thought in my head. Just write something so hooky and so easy to remember, and with the proper title that they just go, oh yeah, I know this one works, because apparently that's the amount of thought that's going into it at the moment.
Especially for live. I think the feature story stuff, there's a lot more pre-production and everything, but the live stuff, it's easy to forget when you watch a super polished broadcast of any major sports network, and I may be totally biased here, and apologies to NBC and Fox and ESPN, but I think CBS has the best product, the best live sports product out there. Now, NBC, the Olympics coverage is pretty darn good, but I believe that CBS is one of the best. And it's really easy to see something so polished and not know how just frenetic it is in the background, like behind the scenes. And anybody who's ever done live theater probably can relate. Yes, what you see on stage looks nice and polished, but backstage there's just like costumes and all that stuff. And I can only imagine that it's that type of energy in a truck sitting outside of a stadium. Some folks in the chat, Jesse says, I quit looking at TuneSat because it was discouraging. Jesse, do you want to, anything else you want to kind of add to that?
Well, it's one of those things. There are a couple of interesting things about TuneSat. One of them is it doesn't pick everything up. So my very first placement that was actually on college basketball didn't even get picked up by TuneSat, so I had no idea it happened. And then 9 months later, I got a royalty statement, and I was like, this has to be a mistake, because I didn't hear about anything. I had no idea anything had happened at all. And and then I did see some things actually in May that ended up not being on the right cue sheet or something. And so they actually didn't get paid in the quarter that they got used. So there's kind of this whole thing where it's looking at that just sort of and not seeing anything show up is just another one of those ways that you can get in your own head, right? It's this kind of oh, they're not using, nobody likes what I'm doing.
I'm terrible. I need to stop doing this. I'm going to go back to retail.
It's sort of, it's the, like Rolf was saying about, not hearing anything, right? It's almost worse, not hearing anything at all. Yeah. And TuneSat can be that, because they don't pick everything up. And because if they're not like, even when they are like, you're not sure, like there's a sort of like uncertainty with it too.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
problematic.
Mark, your thoughts?
Maybe a little bit off topic, but it addresses the issue of which I voiced and felt that okay, I don't have, on one hand, I don't have a problem writing something modeled after something and writing something that sounds like somebody else. I don't. I actually kind of like that. But then I also, another part of me also likes to take chances and do something different. I find it fulfilling to do that, especially when I get the idea to do that. And I was listening to, there's a plethora of YouTube videos, and I found this guy, I should remember his name. He lives in the Valley, the San Fernando Valley. I can tell by his, the San Fernando Valley in LA. So by his verbiage, and he's talking about film scoring gigs, but it really hit me. He was talking about, in scoring, and I've done this with directors, temp love. I've done this with clients, they hear something over and over and over and over again. And so they get married to it. Or it's the same kind of thing where, like what we're talking about, everybody wants, and the small business administration, every time, in the world of creativity, the business people, they want something different. They want something new, but yet they want it to sound like Madonna. So it's like it's the constant dynamic going on, So he was saying that, and it just reminded me. He said, take the information, what they give you, and he said, do it in your own way. Do it in your own way. Take the basic stuff and do it in your own way. He talked about a opportunity where he was doing a film for somebody. And he said, they were so married to one particular track that was part of, he said it didn't make any sense for the film. So he told him, he says, look, he says, remember, you're the composer. He says, so he said, I just did it. I said, let me do it my way. And at the end of the film, come back and tell me if you don't like it, I'll give you back what you wanted.
Yeah.
And of course they liked what they had at the end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just ringing true for me. I thought I'd throw it in the barrel there.
We're going to go ahead and get Rolf in. Rolf is joining us here. And so it's good to have Rolf with us. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to wrap up today by asking you guys, and we've alluded to this a little bit, but how do you handle it? Like, how do you keep from letting it kind of weigh you down? And is discouragement always a bad thing? What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that I do. Something I did this year, which I've done a different, in different forms over the years, or tried different things, like for kind of like New Year planning, thinking about, okay, what is this going to look like? What am I going to do this year? And one of the things that I did this year that was a little different was I actually spent some time thinking about, like, okay, what do I value? Like, what's actually important to me? And how am I going to direct my energy, toward those values, like actually, because there's sort of like levels where it's like, okay, I care about these things. Here's the strategy that I think is actually going to, direct me toward that. And then like every week, I'm going to take some actions that kind of feed back into like connecting to that strategy. And so there's an element there where, it's kind of taking control of what you can control. Because there's an awful lot that you can't control. You can't control whether an editor picks your track. You cannot control whether, it is the right thing at the right time. You can't control, how that's viewed. You have under your control, going back to like the Stoic philosophers, you have control over your own thoughts and your own actions. That's about it. Like everything else happens circumstantially around you. And so if you control what you can control, which is doing the work that you do to the best of your ability, and your thoughts about it, and how you impose a measure of control onto what you can do, it frees you from worrying about the other stuff. At least, that's the idea, right? Like it always in the implementation, like there's kind of like, you still have to do it, right? You still have to kind of like get yourself to think that way. But, that's something that I'm working on. And has helped me kind of deal with some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that is vital. Focusing on what you can control and making sure that you are being the best version of you and being honest with yourself and not, this is me, not procrastinating, not making excuses. And if you do all of those things along the way, then you know that you've done everything within your power. And if it still doesn't work out, then at least it wasn't because it's not like on you. You know what I mean? That's just life and the business, which is little salve to a wounded ego, but it's better than feeling like a failure. You know what I mean? Rolf, your thoughts?
For me, an important thing is forgiveness. Not only in the Christian sense or context, but forgiveness is vital to everybody, if he's a religious person or not. Because, so my biggest enemy is myself. And I do things wrong. Not organized, no focus on the right things. And then I could argue with myself, oh, you did that wrong, you could have done better. But if you don't forgive, you are heavily connected to the one who mistreated you or did not well. And even if it's yourself. But if you are able to forgive, you can get loose from that.
Yeah.
So for myself, if I did something wrong, but I forgive myself, I'm free to go to a new place and try it better the next time. And if a library blackmailed me,
or blacklisted you or blackmailed you?
Blacklisted, yeah,
Right.
blacklisted. Sorry.
They don't have your family kidnapped or anything.
Oh, no, blacklisted me. So I can be angry about them, but I can also forgive and say, okay, they have the things to do. They may be busy. Who knows what it is? God bless them. I go my way. Then I'm free to do new things, and maybe I'm free to do it better. So for me, forgiveness is a very important thing.
Yeah, just release. It's why Shannon and I had, the episode right before Thanksgiving last year, talking about release and forgiveness and gratitude and grace and just letting it go. And I think that's part of what Write, Submit, Forget, Repeat is about. It's about kind of releasing this out there and letting it be. If you've done your best and you focused and you're honest with yourself, and this is the best I have, and then you release it out there, then you don't have to, it's not up to you anymore. Now, if there are parts where you're like, I could fix this, I can improve this, it's procrastination, overcommitting, all of those kind of things. As long as I am keeping those in check, not that I'm going to be perfect, but if today I strive to be a better version of Dave than I was yesterday, then that's a win. And that is the antidote for me for discouragement, is figuring out how I can improve and looking for those opportunities and not beating yourself up, not, here at the first of the year, a lot of us are probably looking to eat better, get healthy, and all of those kind of things. And yeah, you might have totally like binged out on cookies and sweets and eggnog over Christmas. Great. Awesome. I hope it was great. But don't punish yourself for that. All you can do is just, start now. And so that is, for me, that's an antidote to discouragement. Jesse in the chat said, recommend reading Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Yep. I got that on my list. And Jesse also says that Stephen Pressfield talked in one of his books about finishing his first novel and talking to his mentor about it. Good for you, his mentor said. Now start the next one. Yep. Yep. Good on you. That's a great cue. Now the next one. Anybody else? What are some other techniques to kind of keep from getting discouraged, or maybe pulling out of a discouragement spiral, or just that feedback loop? Yeah, Jesse.
I was going to share one more thing I just thought of was that, Cory kind of talked about like balance. And one of the things that has been really important for me has been being physically active, doing weight training, doing like kettlebell swings, doing rowing, doing whatever. I don't like running, so I'm entirely uninterested in running. I'm not going to do it, but I'm perfectly willing to do some other things. I'll go for walks. I'll go, I'll do, heavy weight training. Those kinds of things like have been really, really valuable for my mental health, and gives you something, again, that you have a measure of control over. It's like you can go do this, and like you don't have to think about all the stuff that's waiting for you. You don't have to think about all of the things that you haven't done yet, and like the cues, the deliverables that you have to do, et cetera, et cetera. Like you just kind of can allow that go. And physically, like your brain needs that activity. Like you really gotta have that stuff going on in order to have proper brain function, which is a big part of it. I've also been working on my health this year, and like I went to the doctor, got a full panel, and it was like, hey, there are some things that are really low, like your vitamin D is really low, your B12 is low. Started working on that, and I'm feeling better, and that's giving me a completely different outlook on mentally on all of these things as well. So like the physical is a really important part of it too.
Yeah, that's good. Mike, your thoughts?
Oh, I was just going to sort of mirror what Jesse mentioned. For me, it's just write another one, keep going, and just like I said, hope springs eternal. So, don't take it personally. Just be like, write better, write more, write better, and eventually they'll land.
Now how
and study, and just be honest with yourself, critique your own work, say, how could this have been better? Where did I miss the mark at?
Yeah.
Or be honest with yourself and say, I didn't miss the mark. It's just a matter of time.
That's right.
So
yeah. I also found you mentioned that you had some success last season, and that goes a long way. Like just a little bit of success can be like jet fuel into your motivation. However, the faster and higher you fly, the harder you fall. That was my experience coming off of.
I don't use TuneSat, so I have no idea. Yeah. Maybe there's some stuff floating around out there. I don't know. But I don't want to be like what Jesse said. I don't want to sit there and stare at the TuneSat all day and go, wait a minute, is there anything here?
I have done that. Oh my gosh, I've done that, like refreshing TuneSat, and that's a bad thing because it's ultimately you're looking for validation. You want somebody to tell you that you're good and that you deserve this.
Be surprised at this point in time.
Yeah, I hear you. Mark, your thoughts?
I'm not perfect at these, but I talk about the things I do that do work, and they work, when I do them. I don't always do them. But so when I'm discouraged, I have to ask myself, why am I writing music? And for me, it can't be just, don't misunderstand me, I do want to make money. It's not, that's not, all right. And I do want to, but it has to be like, what's the bigger purpose? In other words, I'm trying to encourage somebody, lift their life. I'm trying to do something that's going to make a difference. That's one thing. I had to always ask myself that. Second thing is, when I ask myself that, sometimes ideas that come up are out of the box. So I have to trust those. I have to trust myself. Even if other people are saying, don't do that, or you should only do this. I still have to trust those things. Not that I don't listen to what other people are saying, but it's that. And then if I get opposition or rejection, this is a harder one, but I do know on some level it means I'm moving in the right direction. It does. I mean, if I'm not getting any rejection, I'm not trying. For me, I know that. And the last one, and this is a big one. When I go through the day, and I'm trying to get in the habit of doing this more and more with each project, sit and ask myself, reflect on it. Like, what went well, even if it was doggy do. What went well about this? What happened about this? There was something that was good in the process. What was that? Write it down, and then also take another column and say, okay, what could be better? Because my tendency is just to do the what could be better stuff, so then it's a list of all the things I didn't do well. But then if I start off by what went well, then those things work for me. So anyway, I just thought I'd share those. I'm definitely not perfect at all of them, and I don't do them all consistently, but they do work.
Yeah, I think not being perfect is just the human experience. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get perfect at this. And I think anybody who says that they are is either lying to us or themselves. Yeah. Either way, somebody's not being the truth teller. Rolf, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like to answer to Mark to the question, what is the reason why I make music? For me, it's simple. I'm addicted. Since I was 8, I fell in love with music. Since I was 10 or 11, I fell in love with prog rock. Now I'm 64, and all the time I was in bands, led choirs in churches, did all kinds of music, and I simply cannot be without making music. There is no way. I can't. I'm addicted. It's like somebody who's addicted to drugs. The simplest way is for him to become a dealer and make money. And that's the same to me. So I'm addicted to music, and why not making money with music?
Yeah, it's like, well, you're kind of out of line, but you're not wrong. Oh, Rolf, thank you so much. And gentlemen, I'm afraid I am going to need to put a pin in it here. Thank you so much for joining us. For Rolf, Cory, Jesse, Mike, Mark, Chris, and Rolf, thank you so much. We're going to be doing this again, another topic. If you have a topic that you would like just to chat about in our roundtable format, you can let us know. Leave a comment below. But thank you so much. And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Once again, a huge word of thanks to the family members who joined me on the podcast today. It's one thing for me to talk about it, but hearing from composer to composer and encouraging one another and just being real with each other. I'm going to be looking to do roundtables throughout the year, so be on the lookout for the next one. And also a huge word of thanks to the family, friends, and neighbor subscribers of 52Qs who pay their actual real life money to keep all of this going. You'll notice you didn't hear any sponsored embedded ads for mattresses, meal plans, or earbuds. And the reason is because folks like you support the channel. So thank you so much. And if that's something that you're interested in, and also getting all of those subscriber perks that I talked about at the beginning of the show, then head over to 52qs.com. Subscription tiers start at just $4 a month. Well, that is going to do it for me this week. You definitely want to tune in next week because I am welcoming a very special guest. From beats to banjo, we are going to be chatting with Ryan Harlan. Now, if you don't know who Ryan is, I promise you've probably seen him on YouTube. He is that Reason guy. Ryan from Reason. Turns out he's an amazing banjo player, and juxtaposing using a software synth and DAW like Reason and getting into modular synthesis and additive synthesis versus playing the banjo? We're going to talk about all of those things, how his relationship with reason came about, and why he still uses reason professionally, and how it is his DAW of choice. You definitely want to tune in next week. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you have had a fantastic week 2, and I know that you're going to have an amazing week 3. Why do I know that? Say it with me. Because I know, trust, and believe that the universe has amazing plans just for you. Until next time, peace. The 52 Cues podcast is copyright 2024 818 Studios, all rights reserved. The music played on the podcast is copyright of their respective owners and is used with permission and for educational purposes only. For more information, including joining the community or becoming a member subscriber of 52 Cues, head over to 52cues.com.